episode 183 of Retro Encounter, the RPG fan weekly podcast of many topics. I'm Mike Sollosi, and today I'm joined by two ladies of RPG fan. First, Hilary Andreff.
Hello, good to be here.
And second, making her RPG fan podcast debut, Tina Olah.
Hi.
Now, Hilary and Tina, one of the most requested series that we have for discussing in Retro Encounter is Ys. RPG Fan is known to be a haven of Falcom fans. We cover the Legend of Heroes and Ys series a lot, but we've never really talked about Ys on the podcast. And I have had multiple messages sent to me asking to play an Ys game, and we're finally doing it in April 2019 and playing Ys: The Oath in Felghana, the remake of Ys: Wanderers from Ys for the Super Nintendo, and I think also PC Engine and some other consoles from the early 90s. So before we get into the game that we're playing today, I want to ask you a little bit about your guys' background. Starting with you, Tina, how much Ys have you played in the past?
I've only played the original version of this one. For I think both Super Nintendo and the Genesis version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what your feelings are on it, but I sort of hated the Super Nintendo version.
Yeah, I didn't get very far in that. I'm really liking this one, though.
That's cool, but I like Ys 3 for the Super Nintendo is it's a side-scrolling game with some RPG elements. I think it's like the Zelda 2 of Ys almost, because it's not really like any other game in the series, and it's not nearly as beloved as a lot of its counterparts. But Hilary, how much Ys background do you have?
So going back to our confessionals episode, I have actually somehow unintentionally avoided a lot of Falcom games, and that includes the entire Ys series. So this is my first time.
Well, all right. I guess my turn to answer that question. I played a couple Falcom games in the 90s and early 2000s, but none of them really grabbed me. I mentioned that I really disliked Wanderers from Ys, and I tried it again because one of my friends in the college gaming club insisted that Falcom games have great music and I gotta check them all out. So I like saw videos of I think some of the Japan only Ys games, like Mask of the Sun and Sand City of Kefin. And I followed the localization of Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky pretty closely because I had heard, it took 6 years for that game to come out in North America, and I was really interested in it before it even came out. But Ys itself, I tried a couple of them, including Wanderers from Ys for the Super Nintendo, and didn't really like any of them. But then Falcom sort of resetting is the wrong word, but they sort of tried to reset the Ys series a little bit. The older Ys games have a bit of a confusing development history. There's 2 Ys 4s made by different companies, neither of which was Falcom, but Falcom ended up publishing both of them, and then combined storyline elements from both of them when they remade Ys 4 many years later. And there was a bunch of non-Falcom remakes of Ys games, and it was a little confusing keeping this series storyline together. But around 2000... They released pretty detailed remakes of Ys 1 and 2, and then started getting into a pattern, starting with Ys 6, doing sort of new games and remakes that with storylines altered so they fit together better. And as such, if a modern Ys fan has a lot of good options to choose from, there's a storyline that fits together and builds on each other, and they're available for many, many different platforms instead of just weird Japanese PCs, which is still the case for some of the 90s Ys games. But the game we're talking about today is Ys: The Oath in Felghana, which started out as a PC game. It was the third game released in sort of the Napishtim engine, and it started out on the PC, but now you can get it on PSP and Vita and a couple other platforms, I think. But I think we mentioned this before we recorded, but both of you are playing it on PC, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also playing it on PC. I played this game first about 5 years ago on PC with a 360 controller. I just bought a bunch of Ys games that were on sale. Ended up liking them so much that I beat them all in like 2 months. And I think Felghana was the first Ys game I finished. I sort of started all of them and like, wow, Ys 1 is weird. I don't know about this. Let's try this Felghana thing. And I ended up beating that. And I ended up playing several East games in a row over about 6 months, and then buying and enjoying all of them that as they came out since. But that was 2013 or 2014. I don't remember exactly. I'd have to check like my blog or something. But I think East Oath and Felghana is a really really good starting point because it's a pretty normal Adol and Dogi adventure that is like fits in with all the East tradition and is has some really intense action. I remember I died against the first boss of the game, Dularn, at least twice the first time I played, but I was in better shape this time. Did you guys struggle at all with the difficulty in the playing through the first half of East Oath and Felghana?
Yeah, I just had trouble with a couple bosses, and I didn't really like the platforming in the lava level. But other than that, like I played on easy, so it was wasn't very stressful or anything.
I'm playing on normal both runs, and you're right. The platforming does get weird. You have to do a lot more platforming when you get the double jump. It also gives you more time in the air to like
Yeah,
position yourself better.
yeah, I'm kind of finding it easier with the double jump.
Hilary, have you had any struggles in the early goings on?
Um, yeah, I'm playing on normal as well, and it's mostly the bosses. And I kind of knew that going into it because I've heard a lot about this series. But actually, one of the really funny things is the quarry boss, the statue lady. I died so many times that I got an achievement, which is
Awesome.
pretty funny. Yeah, consult a walkthrough already, and then I realized it's because I wasn't using the D-pad. Um, and then I tried using the D-pad instead, and it went a lot more easily. So it was interesting, but the perspective was interesting in that one too. Like I think even if that hadn't been the case, it still would have taken me a few times to get used to that perspective in that first fight. It's completely a distance fight, and you have to use your magic, which is not what I was expecting for the first boss.
Yeah, I think that Adol gets three magic spells to use in this game, and they're used in combat and also in traverse a little bit. And I think that like the first boss you fight after you get each of them really expects you to use them. Like it wants to teach you those magic spells with these early boss fights. It's the statue lady, then the boss in the lava area, and then the boss in the mountain area is really where they try to educate you with that way, and it's a little bit different. In surrounding East games, Oath and Felghana is sort of like the. It's not really a trilogy, but it's sort of the second game of a set of three East games that have this solo Adol isometric area, like dashing sword attack kind of combat. The old East games just had Adol attack enemies by walking into them. There was no sword button. So like, and I usually think of them as like lawnmower East games or sumo wrestling East games.
I
It's
like it.
yeah, they're a little weird. I think East One they had really not figured it out yet, and it's a little bit of a struggle getting through a couple bosses in East One. But in East Two, they give you more skills and more options, and it's a much more playable game. And again, this is a remake of East Three. But in the recent run of Falcom made East games after 2000, they did three East games in a row: Six, Felghana, and Origin, where your main character is running around in an isometric space with some verticality, doing platforming as well as sword slashing and spell casting. And in East Neo and Felghana, it's almost the simplest because Adol's moveset is, uh, you know, different sword strikes and combos with three spells that can do some offense and some utility. But in East Six, he had three different swords, and each sword had different like combos and different speeds, and that was a little bit weird to get used to, and also different spell casting. And in East Origin, you have three playable characters that are completely different, even though one of them is very similar to Adol. So I want to ask you this next. The basic action and controls in this game, I find it really easy to sort of lose track of myself if I'm mashing the attack button because Adol sort of dashes forward as he strikes, and his moves have different properties if you dash while attacking, or like attack on the upward half of a jump or downward half of a jump. Have you had any? How does the basics of sword swinging and spellcasting feel to you guys? You go first, Hilary.
Okay. I overall, especially in the early game, really enjoyed the momentum. it was pretty nice to be able to just keep going with attacks through a bunch of enemies. But it took a little bit of getting used to when I ran into some of the enemies. Like, I think there were some in the second ruins where you almost had to stun them by jumping and then doing a sword strike on the way down.
Yeah, I never really mastered the upward strike or the downward strike, and I think my timing with it is a little bit better now that I sort of know what I have to do ahead of time. But it's weird to get used to.
It is, but and I think losing yourself is kind of a good way to put it, because you can just kind of glide around and hit that attack button a lot until you run into a specific type of enemy where maybe a different strategy is in order.
Yeah. So Tina, how does the basics of moving and running and jumping and fighting feel in Isoth and Felghana to you?
Well, I didn't really like the jumping attack. It just felt kind of stiff to me. But once we get that whirlwind spell, it's like all I'm doing is casting that and then jumping and like just like that. They're flying.
Yeah, when you get the charge spell, the third one, that I think that's I incorporate that into combat a lot too. But
Oh yeah.
I because I never got used to the typing of the timing of the dash, the upward slash or the downward slash. I mostly just spellcast and mash around and try to position myself smartly.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really using the. I have the dash button on all the time, so. But I'm not really using the downward strike or anything.
And we mentioned all three of us are playing on the PC version. The PSP version in Japan came out after the PC version, but I think it might have been vice versa in North America. And I think the PSP version has another dash move where you can sort of double boost to run faster, and you get that ability at the same time as the double jump. And it also lets you it adds some story stuff to the very beginning of the game, telling you about sort of the history of the secret sleeping under Felghana, which we'll talk about in the second episode, and also more art gallery stuff, more new game plus options. You can choose which soundtrack, whether it's the night the current one or the Japanese PC one or the 1989 version. There's a lot, and also there's full voice acting for cutscenes in the PSP version. So the PC version does have better audio visual options, and to make the game look good on a PC monitor, but the PSP is much more feature rich. But
Yeah, I love the original soundtrack for the Super Nintendo version.
oh yeah, Falcom soundtracks are always bangers,
Yeah.
and they even had Yuzo Koshiro contribute to I think to the first three East games. So he's and he's a legend. So that that Falcom always has really energetic, cool music. This is maybe even on the more heavy metal side of
Yep.
of, of Falcom, but I really like the audio in general for Oath and Felghana, and I'm not as familiar with the SNES version, but my friend in the game club, the music of the SNES version is what he was trying to sell me the series on. But enough about audio, enough about the basics. Let's get back into the story a little bit. At the very beginning of East, this is one of I think maybe 2 out of the 10 main games in the series where Adol is not shipwrecked or somehow knocked out or incapacitated in the first 5 minutes. Him and his best friend Dogi are visiting Dogi's hometown of Felghana, and because East takes place in fake Europe and fake like fake Eurasia, I think Felghana is supposed to be like Switzerland or Austria because it's definitely in the fake Alps, but
Yes.
it's not Garmin, which is fake Germany. So I don't know exactly where, but somewhere in that vicinity of the fake Europe of the East world, whose name I forget. It might be Europa even, and right away you meet one of Dogi's childhood friends and you visit the town of Redmond, which is a very cute little RPG town with a you know a pretty colorful cast. Do you have any characters you've noticed in Redmond that seem to stand out to you guys? He says suspiciously, knowing what happens to some of them later.
Oh no.
I like those little farm animals.
Oh yeah, Picards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely followed them around and did the little sound effect.
Yeah.
I think Picards are supposed to be half pigs, half rabbits, and you can raise a little like a little kennel of them in East 8 when you in the town there.
Aww.
Yeah, I remember just thinking that right from the get go, this game had pretty good dialogue and characters. Dogi is a very steadfast friend. You already automatically know that there's something up with Chester from the moment he makes an appearance.
Oh, good lord.
Yeah, and and the Count, I forget his name. Oh shoot,
McGuire, was it?
yeah,
Yeah.
McGuire. Yeah, and Count McGuire like is seems like a pretty evil, pretty greedy dude. But when you did you see the cutscene with his family?
With McGuire's family?
Yeah,
I don't remember it.
no, it's an optional cutscene. If you go to
Oh.
the if I think it's going up to the castle gate before you finish the stuff at the mine,
Uh,
then you meet McGuire's wife and kids and
hmm.
some of their and I think like some of their other servants and stuff. And it makes me wonder like wait. This guy has a nice family. What's his deal exactly?
What is going on?
Yeah.
Wow, I missed that one, but I definitely talked to the guard a couple times who told me more about Chester.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Garden Redmond Gardner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and at the castle gate, actually, as
Oh
well.
okay. Yeah, I think I didn't do this the first time I played this game, so I'm trying to do it now. I think if you go back to Redmond and or all the NPCs really and talk to them in between story events, they'll have more things to say to you. And I think if I had done that the first time I'd played, I would have gotten some more foreshadowing to stuff in the later half of the game. But where I am now, I'm trying to talk to people more, and you get a little bit out of it, but really the biggest thing is that missing cutscene because I think that you can't even meet the mayor's wife and kids for the achievement for the gallery achievement if you miss them that time.
Oh no.
Oh.
But it's no big deal. I mean, you can just replay it, and
Yeah.
it'll only be an hour or two. But yeah, Redmond's it's a cute little RPG town. I've been on the podcast before saying that I don't really like one town RPGs because I usually want to visit many places when I'm playing a Japanese RPG. But this one does a pretty good job of it because it's also East the Oath and Felghana is a pretty brisk game. Most of the East games until 7 were under 12 to 15 hours, or at least in that range. Um, you can beat the first East game in like 3 hours, but
Uh-huh.
uh, but Felghana doesn't really waste any of your time. It has you going from objective to objective pretty quickly. And the first objective is seeing what's going on in the quarry. There's some kind of mysterious statue there, and Adol goes to the quarry to investigate the missing miners, and Chester goes to investigate the quarry to look for the statue for Count McGuire. What do you think of the first stage of this game? Including the two bosses in it, the statue at the end and the sorcerer Dularn near the middle.
Well, I can say at this point I'm curious. I want to know more about Dularn. It seems like he's going to have more to do with things in the second half of the game because he's keeping track of you for reasons that may or may not be the same as McGuire, but we don't know yet. So, and he's kind of recurring. He shows up after you get magic, typically at least in the early game.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I think he's basically keeping tabs on you, but we don't really know what his deal is at all.
Yeah, I struggled with Dular in the first battle, but I find if you gain just one level, it makes so much difference.
Yep.
Yeah, that's definitely the case in this game. One
Yeah.
level or one weapon upgrade will
Yeah.
be a large difference in attack. It's just because they're sort of dealing in small integers,
Yeah.
and level scales very much. I think I beat the game on normal at level 51. In fact, I know what that is because I saw the level on the save file just a few hours ago. But I had to gain several levels in the final dungeon just to handle the final boss. This game rewards a grind, but is pretty challenging in its own right because boss battles get intense.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm playing a shmup like Gradius or Galaga or something because there's just so much crap on the screen that I have to dodge just to like find my way to the boss, like I'm navigating a hedge maze or something.
Yeah, agreed. And I think you do kind of get the first taste of that with Dularn.
Yeah. No, I died a couple times when I faced Dularn the first time. Again, this was a couple years ago, and I handled them better this time. But it's that's really a hallmark of the E series. Really, just intense boss fights. Some of which are, the size of your character, and like mashing you blow for blow, or some that can fill the whole screen. They get intense, and it was a bit of a trial by fire for me playing this for the first time. It's like, okay, this is hard, but this is also really good, and I think I want to play this thing through to the end. Uh, but at the end of the Tigray Quarry, we have some items. We have the new spell. We have the first of 4 statues that the Count is interested in, and we meet a couple more characters like the mayor and the bishop and some miners. Um, and then we go, and then after you learn a little bit more about what's going on with this setting and the statues, you go to the second dungeon, the Ilburn's Ruins, which has just a fantastic background track. I love the Ilburn Ruins music.
Yeah, it definitely helped me power through.
It's one of those like sort of just like intense upbeat rock tracks that just has a sense of forward momentum. That's like, yeah, I'm sprinting through something with this. This is great.
I like the main part of the ruins. I didn't like the lava part.
Yeah, well, the lava section is sort of a new dungeon. They sort of like
Yeah.
after you fight Chester, he basically just like kicks you 300 style into a hole where he probably thought he was killing you, but really he was just sending you to where the next statue was. So yeah, not the smartest move, Chester.
Thanks, Chester.
Hmm. It's like, well, thank you for giving me this wind spell and this statue, but also no thanks for kicking me down a hole. That's rude.
Yeah, at that point it's to be expected with him.
Yeah, Chester's a jerk. I don't think that's a spoiler. That's a spoiler at all. He's Elena's brother, and Elena seems like a total sweetheart that Dogi may or may not have a crush on. And in fact, in the first minute of the game, Dogi says, "Oh, this is Elena. She's gotten really pretty, hasn't she? But she'll probably fall in love with you, Adol. This is usually how it goes." Because it's true. Adol will save the world, be the chosen guy of something, and some village girl will fall in love with him, but then he has to go on and move on to the next adventure. That's Adol's curse.
Taking some parts.
But his true love, of course, is Dogi and adventure. I don't know if we would even call it a running joke or not, but Adol and Dogi are definitely best friends. But like Bert and Ernie of Sesame Street, maybe they're more than best friends. But and that's where fan speculation enters the picture. But enough about Adol and Dogi for now. Back in the Zone of Lava, which a quick Google search told me was the official name of that area, we start collecting Raval ore in large quantities, and also we get an emerald for your bracelet. There's a ruby for your first bracelet in the mine, but collecting rubies and ore are the main ways of upgrading your equipment. So it's really important to find those, and I'm always, my missing content anxiety kicks into place when I'm near the end of a dungeon and I'm worried that I've missed a chest, especially when it's something really important like a spell upgrade.
Yeah, those gemstones. I almost missed the
Oh
emerald.
yeah.
Yeah, I checked the list, but I definitely almost missed the emerald in the Zone of Lava and one of the gems in the abandoned mine shaft after you get the same place where you get the double jump. But
Right.
have you had any item collection woes or anything or anything similar in this playthrough?
Yeah, like I almost missed the emerald myself. I was struggling with that bird boss, so I just started reading the guides and I missed an emerald, so I had to go all the way back.
Oh,
That sucks. But
Yeah.
but I mean, you really don't want to miss them. Each
Oh no.
spell has 3 gems, so 3 rubies, 3 emeralds, 3 topazes to find, and you really don't want to miss those. I mean, I'm sure you can beat the game without them, but I mean, do you want to do that to yourself, really?
no.
And and what about the 2 bosses in the Zone of Lava? What were they? It was the Fire Eater and the Lord of the Blazing Inferno. Do we have any thoughts, any struggles with those?
Believe it or not, it did took me a while to get the hang of the first one. I had less of a hard time with the final boss, actually. And I think it had the most to do with the fact that you kind of have to glide around because the fire eater is on fire a lot and it really damages you. So you have to kind of use your newfound wind magic to glide away so that he'll cool down before you can go in and attack. And it just took me forever to get the hang of how to get far enough away and then back in. But
Yeah, it's again, it's kind of like a shmup game, or like
yep.
you know what I mean, a shmup top-down shooter like
Mhm.
Galaga or something, where it's really more about dodging and figuring out patterns than it is getting in hits.
Yep.
If you think if you play this almost like a Zelda game where you're trying to just dive in and get in as many strikes in as possible, you probably will die because in this many East games, especially and maybe including or especially this one, it's really about avoiding the big hits of the bosses and then attacking them when they're a little bit idle rather than just always hunting for sword strikes. It's
Yeah.
you feel that a lot in the last couple in the last run of bosses in this game, but it's like sort of dodge first, attack second was an attitude I had to adapt when I first played this, and I'm having an easier time now because I sort of know what to do ahead of time.
It's good. Yeah, it's gotten easier as the game's gone on, but it is quite the adjustment, especially because I'm way more used to Zelda.
Yeah, sort of one funny thing. When I started playing these, I was calling Felghana Origin and Napishtim, the three that are in the same engine, Hipster Zelda, and then the next three, which are Seven, Celceta, and Lacrimosa. I called those three Hipster Secret of Mana because those are have a new battle system where you control three characters at once and switch between them rapidly.
Yep.
If anything, it's been a secret of mana or a mana replacement for me because they aren't making any good ones of those anymore.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out then.
They are good. Seven's maybe my favorite. It's like Seven or Felghana are both maybe top three in the series for me. And I played Lacrimosa of Dana, the which is on Switch and PS4 and Vita. I played that pretty recently, just like towards the end of 2018. And I don't know if I love that one as much as some of the others, but it was still really really good. Like again, none of these East games made after 2000 are losers. They're they all at the very least help you understand the other ones in the series better, and have cool lore and you get to hang out with Adol, who's a likable protagonist.
So he's in all of them? Like even the new one?
He's in all of them except Origin. Origin
Okay.
takes place 1,000 years before East One, and all of the I think I mentioned this in another podcast recently. I'm sorry. And all of the bosses and many of the characters in Origin come back in East One and Two. Like either you'll see someone from the bloodline of a character in Origin, or you'll see or the monsters will return as bosses. It's I mean, I think Origin is a much better game than East One or Two, but it is sort of cool if you play all three of them and see sort of like where the patterns are and what the connection is between uh, between different characters and settings. Um, he starts out as a teenager. I think he's supposed to be 16 or 17 in East One, and then every East game onward is just like another chapter in Adol's travel log. I think sort of the overarching lore of the East games is someone found the travelogue of the legendary adventurer Adol Christin, and every game is like a chapter in his life. So I think he's a different. I mean, I'd have to check a wiki or something, but I think he's a different age in every game, and that's why people realized that East Four takes place before East Three because it's something like he's 19 in East Four and 20 in East Three, so it's not exactly linear, but it is a connected story. Adol is the main character in all of them except for Origin, and they even change his appearance to make himself look a little older with each game. So
That's
yeah,
neat. I can really appreciate a series that has a strong frame like that.
and it didn't used to have a strong frame when they were making them in the 90s. They were very dissimilar, and again they contracted two different versions of East 4, which I still don't
Mhm.
understand to this day. But so it was a little bit messy at first, but from starting with this reboot from around 2000, they've been able to sort of maintain a canon and keep a lot of story connections between the different games. There's a group of quote unquote bad people called the Tribe of Darkness, who are villains in a lot of East games, including Origin. And they don't make an appearance till East 6, but then in the following remakes, for Memories of Celceta, which is a remake of 4, and Felghana, which is a remake of 3, and Origin, which takes place before East 1, they incorporate Tribe of Darkness stuff in all of them to make them to make the different games all fit together better. It's really really smart, rewarding story design. At least it feels like that to me. And East 9, we got our first videos of East 9 a couple weeks ago, and we got our first sort of artwork from East 9 a few months ago, and that game looks really good. I think Adol's like been stuck in prison for an undetermined amount of time. I think it's supposed to be like the fake Bastille prison in France or something, and it's him breaking out of prison, recruiting other prisoners. People have monster powers. You have to run a guild. I don't know exactly everything going on, but this is the oldest and most grizzled that Adol has ever been in an East game. So I'm interested to see how that goes.
Oh man, now I'm picturing this like French Revolution sort of background. Like
maybe watch that video, that recent video, because I think they do. I think like French Revolution Castletown is kind of what they're going for.
Cool.
But again, it's still really early. We're recording this a few weeks in advance, so it's possible that more news will come out between now and when this episode gets posted. But I'm really excited for East 9 because I thought East 6 and East 1 and 2 were kind of weak, but I haven't really been disappointed by an East game yet.
So it's a good time for us to finally be talking about the series.
Yeah, finally. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up doing another one eventually, because the East games, a lot of them feel really different. Again, there's Hipster Zelda and Hipster Secret of Mana for at least for 3 each of them. And I mentioned this before, but they're mostly brief. Like until East 7, they were all under 15 hours, and then East 7 is and East Memories of Celceta are sort of in the 20-30 range, and then Lacrimosa of Dana is really long. East 8's something like 40 to 50 hours, but they're all like good RPGs that are really action heavy and don't feel like they waste your time. But okay, back to the story. After the Zone of Lava, you have the wind spell, so you can glide around a lot. And the dungeon after that is maybe a little bit. I don't know. It's a very vertical dungeon, but it feels shorter and less less intense than the Ilburn's Ruins or the Zone of Lava.
Yeah.
The abandoned mine. You get the double jump, which is great, and there's a lot of hidden stuff in the abandoned mine. But it's I don't know. It doesn't feel quite as rough as the others. What were your thoughts on the mine?
Yeah, I almost found that one kind of relaxing, actually, after the lava zone.
I can see it. My one annoyance is that I spent way too long going back and forth looking for a lot of that hidden stuff.
Yeah, there's at least one gemstone in there, and there's a ton of Revolor.
Yep. And didn't exactly appreciate wandering around in the dark toward the beginning of it, but it wasn't the worst like characters in the dark sort of mechanics I've seen. It wasn't too bad.
Did either of you get that necklace that lights up the dark areas?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't even know about that until after I finished that.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh boy, you had a much more difficult time in the mine than I did.
In the dark.
But yeah, you get that. It's I think it's you need the wind to get it, but I think it's in the quarry, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And it helps both for the glide and for the double jump to sort of explore the previous areas as much as you can to see what items you can get with your new abilities. It's a little bit Metrovania that way, but it's I'm not trying to call Isoth and Felghana a secret Metrovania game. Go ahead, Hilary.
I was just going to say that's something I can also appreciate, though. Like I like it when a game rewards you for going back to previous areas.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It handles it in a pretty good way, I think. It's like you don't have to. Hopefully, you didn't miss anything in the Zone of Lava, because that's by far of the previous areas the most annoying one to both get to and escape from. But yeah, the East does a pretty good job of rewarding re-exploration and reinterpreting old areas. And like I said, if you visit the town and talk to people around, you learn a few more story details between major events. And I really, really want to talk about the second half of the game, but I cannot because I don't know. I hope I'm not overselling it, but there is a bit of a turn that was a surprise to me the first time I played.
Oh, exciting! Looking
Yeah,
forward to it. Now
because
you've got me worried for all the townspeople. I I like them all.
maybe something happens to some townspeople. Maybe.
No.
After you get the double jump in the mine, you're able to go and look for the next statue in the Elder Mountains. And the first time I played this, I was really upset I couldn't kill certain enemies.
Yeah.
You need that that earth charge, that topaz bracelet.
Right.
Yeah, I accidentally fell in a room full of those, like the rock guys, and
Hmm.
yeah,
Jeez. Yeah. Yep.
that wasn't
Did the
fun.
same thing.
Yeah, if you gotta just double jump over them and get the hell out and get back onto the trail because it's I mean you realize pretty early that you need some item or something to get through these enemies that are only taking 0 or 1 damage, but and that item ends up being the third spell, which is sort of like a charge move that will knock out armored enemies and make and expose them to for more damage, but. Uh, it's also right around the midpoint of the game. You basically go through the mountains, you get that Terra bracelet, and then you go through sort of an ice cave zone, and at the end of that is where you get the next statue. And that's around where we're going to end today's discussion. But before we do it, like, what were your thoughts on those dungeons? I really like the song in the on the mountain path, and I also appreciate how vertical the ice dungeon was. It's a lot of remembering what floor you're on and sort of tracking yourself at a vertical scale and not just moving from left to right like the Super Nintendo East Wanderers from East was. But what do you think of these two sort of partner dungeons?
I'm actually liking a lot of the scenery in the outdoor areas of the mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
The,
like
the
those the ice crystals.
yeah, the backgrounds in this game are pretty good.
Yeah,
They almost look too good for the quality of the sprites. These sprites are sort of smooth lines and doll like, but then the
Yep.
backgrounds and the and things like how the save points and and things on the screen like bridges or statues look more detailed than the sprites in a way that is a little bit too eyebrows up for me.
Yeah, I think I just kind of compartmentalized the two in my mind a little bit. So, okay, sprites are this way, environments are this way, and somehow managed. But yeah, oh my God, the environments in this game, just in general, there were a couple points. Like one of them, I think, is when I first entered the church in the town. I just found myself kind of staring at them a little bit. It's really, really a pretty game.
Yeah, you can tell that these were rendered polygons. Like sometimes you sort of see the blocks of the building stuff. But because they pop out differently than the sprites do. But it's a lot of really gorgeous architecture and scenery.
Yeah,
yeah, the
and
town graphics are so detailed.
mhm.
And Falcom's not a large studio. I think they have fewer than 60 employees, but they do really again the technology is not always the most advanced. The one joke is that they're always a generation behind. So their PSP game looked like or I should say the PSP Legend of Heroes games looks like PS1 games, and then the Vita Legend of Heroes games look like PS2 games. But you can really tell that they do a good job with their art and design. But speaking of sprites, if you want to really confuse yourself, look at the different amounts of sprite work done in E6. E6 was a PC game that had a PS2 port, and
Oh,
the PC original and the Japanese PS2 version and the North American PS2 version all have different sprites. I think they wanted to have I think it was because they thought that North America wouldn't be as receptive to the 2D sprites, similar to what are in Felghana. But so they have these really weirdly rendered polygon character models just for the North American PS2 version. It's super weird.
huh.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's like his arms look really weird.
Yeah, his arms look stubby, like he was a poorly made scarecrow or something,
No.
and his shield sort of pops off his back. It looks much better with the hand drawn 2D sprites. Okay, we're roughly around where we intended to end for the episode, so I just want to ask a couple more questions. Like, I've ended up talking about almost every single East game on this podcast, which I sort of thought I was going to do, but even underestimated how much I would. Starting with you, Tina, like, first, are you enjoying this so far? And second, are you more interested in Modern East now?
I am. I do really like this game. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I want to try 8 especially because the graphics look really pretty.
Eight is pretty as hell. Eight famously had a really terrible localization.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of fans attributed that from Falcom changing localizers from Xseed to Nipponichi Software America, and because NISA underbid Xseed on getting the contract to translate the game, and the translation was so bad that and fan outcry was so bad they had to retranslate the entire thing.
I remember
Um,
that.
yeah, but that would have been end of 2017, beginning of 2018. But now, if you play any of those, any version of Ys 8, you will get the good translation.
Yeah.
I played it for Switch last year, I think I mentioned, and I had an absolute blast with it. It even runs pretty well in handheld mode.
Yeah, I like what I've seen of 6 too because of all the island scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
6 takes place on oh shoot, the fake Atlantic Ocean, so like fake Atlantis or maybe fake Mount St. Helens. I'm sorry, fake St. Helens Island. I was thinking of the place where Napoleon was exiled. Uh, and Ys 8 takes place in fake Mediterranean Ocean. But both of them, Adol gets shipwrecked because Adol tends to get shipwrecked. Again, I think it happens in every single. He either gets shipwrecked or crashes and lands in a mysterious place in every single Ys game. I want to say except 7 and Felghana. So yeah, he's 2 for 9 on safe arrivals to new lands. Not a great look at all.
That's not the best track record.
No. There's even a scene in East 7 where you have to go visit a small island that's off the coast of where you're staying, and one character goes, "So, Adol, can you pilot the boat?" And then Dogi steps in and goes, "No! I'm taking care of this. Trust me on this one."
Don't let him do it.
Yeah. Hilary, same question I asked Tina. Like, are you mostly enjoying this, yes or no? And are you more interested in East now, yes or no?
Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it a lot. I think I've been missing some good action RPG kind of gameplay, um, especially because as people probably who have been listening to the podcast know, like early stuff like the Quintet games.
Yeah.
So, which I know Uses Tangentially has had some similar people early on
Yeah,
working on them.
yes, I think there are former Falcom people in Quintet. Or people left Falcom and to form Quintet, so there is some shared DNA
Yeah,
there. Mm.
exactly. So that is definitely a draw. I can tell playing it. Um, but also, I definitely got drawn in by the town and definitely Adel and Dogi too. So I want to hear more about their adventures.
Yeah, I think characters are maybe of secondary importance to East because I really focus on the dungeons and action and bosses when I
Yeah.
play an East game. But Falcom always has colorful characters and good writing. There's way more writing in the Legend of Heroes / Trails games than there are in East. But they always have, the characters have personality and are at least amusing and interesting. The later East games where you have a party of 6 or 7 characters. They focus more on character development in those
Yeah.
because you have 6 or 7 main characters and only one of them is silent. But
Right.
yeah,
I was
but
organizing that.
I think Felghana is a good starting point. It was the first one I finished, and because I think you get a sense of who Adol and Dogi are and the kind of adventures they get into, and a game that's not too long or too short, and is probably slightly above average in challenge for East games. So I think Felghana is a great starting point, and I'm really glad to be sharing your your first East journeys because it was I'm a little bit behind. I think I just got the Topaz bracelet, so I haven't gone into the Ice Cave yet. But yeah, I really liked this game. This kickstarted me playing every East game I could afterwards, and I'm really excited for 9. I don't know if East 9 Monstrum Nox is going to come out in 2019 or later, but it's one of my most anticipated games, full stop. And yeah, once you pop, you just can't stop.
It just seems like it. Oh, and before I forget, there is actually one other thing I wanted to mention that's
Oh,
site related with East, and that's we have a lovely feature that I know I'm going to look at again before 9 comes out, and probably even before finishing Felghana. But that's the So You Want to Get Into East feature, and that talks a bit about the history, the changes that have happened to the series to make it more cohesive,
mm.
and it goes through each game too.
Yeah,
So it's
that was written by Rob Fenner, who is a
yeah,
Falcom scholar. And when we did a Falcom Encounter episode about 2 years ago, he had a lot to say about the sort of Falcom's early and middle days. But I'm really my attachment to Falcom is almost entirely in their modern age, from say from the East 1 and 2 remakes onward, basically. But they are a company with a rich history, and East has a lot of you know. There's a lot to take in if you want to get into East, but that primer that he wrote a year or two ago is a really good starting point. I do recommend it. I think I'll repeat what you said, Hilary. It's called officially "So You Want to Get into East."
yep.
And yes, it's pronounced East, not wise, not ease. It's like you say the word geese but drop the G. But you don't say it like Terry Bogard when he meets the man who killed his father and says geese. Not that way.
Yeah, when I played the original when I was like 10 or something, I think I pronounced it use.
Yeah, I think I thought it was wise, but again,
Yeah.
this was a series I only ever saw tangentially and rented once.
Yep.
But
Yep.
but I was set straight pretty early. It was in the early 2000s. Like, oh, this is East. Okay, I get it now. And also there's no apostrophe.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Improper apostrophe use is one of my language pet peeves, or I should say English language pet peeves.
Mine too. And I could totally see like growling yes when you're angry at it when
Oh
you're
yeah.
fighting the boss for the millionth time. But other than that, yeah, just
Hello, Teddy. Kiss. I live for terrible old SNK voice acting. I really do. But okay, if we're talking about Geese Howard and Terry Bogard, then it's definitely time to end the episode. Thank
yeah.
you so much, Tina and Hilary, for joining me on talking about East Felghana. I promise to be a little bit further ahead next time, and and prepared to talk about endgame stuff with you, including one twist that I've mentioned several times, and I'm probably giving you anxiety about. But don't worry, just keep playing.
Okay.
And thank you, listeners, for joining us and the first step to our East, the Oath and Felghana journey. This game is great. I think it holds up. I think it is one of the probably 3 best East games, and I thought it was a really good choice, both for a new East player or a veteran East player to visit or revisit. This is just a good-ass video game that doesn't waste your time. But this is episode 183. Episode 184 is going to be part 2 of this. This is not going to take us very long to get to the end, so I'm going to have these 2 episodes go back to back. And after that, we're going to have an episode all about mini consoles. The SNES Classic, NES Classic, and PS1 Classic are 3 miniature consoles that have hit us in recent years. 2 of them well received, 1 of them less well received. And we have some thoughts on what games should have been on those things, and if they ever were to release more of those, what the Nintendo or Sony's strategies should be. So there's an episode all about that upcoming. And then in May, we are going to have 2 episodes on Chrono Cross, the classic PS1 game that created some complicated feelings in the hearts of Chrono Triggered fans. And also 3 episodes, I don't want to say what they are yet, but 3 special tribute episodes that are going to be really fun to record, but we have not started on those yet. So please look forward to a double feature of Chrono Cross and a triple feature of To Be Determined in May. And also, listeners, don't forget to like and subscribe however you're listening to this podcast. Leave positive feedback, 5 stars, 5 stars. Also, visit us on RPG Fan for all of our other fantastic content. RPG Fan has forums. It has a Facebook. It has a Twitter. It has an Instagram. We have stuff streaming on Twitch every night. And you can find all of those fine things on RPGFan.com's front page. So, starting with you, Tina, if listeners want to reach you, how can they do so?
I'm Kittensoft39 on both Instagram and Twitter.
Okay, and Hilary, your turn.
So the best way to reach me is probably on our Discord, and I'm EP Fire there.
Okay, and if you want to reach me, there are many ways to do so. You can email retro@rpgfan.com. I'm the person that responds to that email address. I'm at The Real Monsoon on Twitter most of the time, and at Evoker for Dogs other times. I'm Monsoon Mike on the RPG Fan Discord, and Monsoon on the RPG Fan forums, and I'm also Sollosi at rpgfan.com. So I think I hope we were gentle to you on your first podcast, Tina, because I know you sent us a lot of messages asking about questions about how much to prepare, and if anything, you were probably the most prepared of any of us.
Yeah, I took all sorts of notes.
It's all good. I try to create a relaxed atmosphere for the podcasters here, but I know that I can sometimes be a bit of an intense person, so I'm not always helping myself there.
I
But
did want to say one thing that I think people should check out because it's kind of hilarious.
hit us. Go for it.
I'm actually looking right now at the cover of the Genesis version of this.
Oh.
And we were talking about the character's age, and he looks kind of middle-aged on it.
Oh, is this like the era of terrible fantasy
Yeah,
art?
like that whole trend of drawing characters looking middle-aged in the 80s.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of like, I mean, it's almost like the two versions of Nier. The one aimed at Japanese audiences was a little boy, and the one aimed at Western audiences was a grizzled old man. Right?
Oh, yeah.
There's two different versions of Nier Gestalt. Well, whatever, it's not important. But what is important is that the episode is over, and I had a great time, and thank you, and good night, and good luck.
Bye.
Bye.